Hello and welcome to a new episode, Craft of Creating. In this episode, I am going to discuss what became of two specific shows that ended up merging together in the future. Yes, and I'm diving into the discussion episodes, gaming room discussions, and movie and TV show room discussions. I want to go into a brief history about what these shows were before the whole merger. Before it became pop culture talk, as we know today. It was 2015. It was during Thanksgiving. And I pretty much was going out shopping with family, getting stuff during Thanksgiving for good deals. And Corey Michaels Movies was also doing the same thing. And he pretty much kind of wanted to make a video. I'm not sure if it was his idea. It was the spur of the moment, so I pretty much came up with the Arturelia video game room discussions because at the time he was pretty much all into gaming before he transitioned into movies. From that night on, after our shopping, video game room discussions was born. First episode was pretty much just talking about our pickups and talking about random stuff. The next day we shot the second episode, and that was pretty much just other random stuff. Not the best quality, I will say, but hey, this was our first time, okay? However, it would be until January of the next year that we would do a specific subject called Sega, all about Sega. And a few months after that, well, 2 months after that, we would do our childhood video games. And then a few months later, best music in video games. However, after that, that was pretty much it for the longest, and I mean longest time. If you had followed me since then, it was a drag through the times, I guess you could say, where we barely did anything, any new recordings of gaming. By that point, Corey Michaels Movies was transitioning, and we just didn't do it for a while. I mean, we also lived pretty far apart, so we obviously couldn't do it unless we met up. However, the exact same year is when he decided he wanted to do a movie discussion on just movies, pretty much. I wanted to add anime into it, so I called it the movie and TV show discussion. This was around October, where we talked about in that first episode Halloween, and thus movies and TV show room discussions was born out of the spur of the moment. I realized, though, I had a little more on my shoulder as I now had like 2 things I was doing now on the channel. By this point, I still haven't found my groove yet. I mean, I know I was doing reviews and stuff, but it wasn't at the height as it is now. So yes, both shows were conceived by just the spur of the moment, which I would say was a cool thing, but on the other hand, it was also a bad thing because this would cause a lot of issues for me in the future as I was everywhere. Within a few months after the very first long episode, when it came to Halloween, we did another episode that was pretty much underrated stuff, and guess what? We didn't do any more for another long time. And gaming discussions was just sitting there, and movies and TV show discussions was also just sitting there. So for a while, we did not do any more recordings of these shows. Corey Michaels Movies had pretty much shifted to the movies. I was still mostly into anime and video games. And for the longest time, these two shows were on a limbo. Nothing. Nada. Pretty much, it wouldn't be until 2018 when I brought back gaming room discussions for an episode. So we pretty much went 2 years without doing it. Well, almost 2 years without doing it. And guess what? Another whole year went by with nothing. It wasn't until early 2020 when the pandemic started to kick up. That was when I actually truly decided to get back into doing them for the gaming and movies and TV show room discussions. And pretty much two of them became more active as two separate entities of shows. One focusing on games, one focusing on movies and TV shows. But then OCD rolled around, and I was like, well, if I talked about video games on movies and TV show discussions, and then when that conflict, you know, stupid stuff like that. So throughout 2020, it pretty much was just separate things. However, the downside is this was draining me. I had so much projects I was working on. Reviews, top 10s. I wanted to get back to top 10s. And these shows were just whenever I can figure out an idea for something and I'm like, well, I'm busy on all fronts. What to do about that? It wasn't until 2022 that I officially decided to merge these two because they're both discussions about something. Why not just merge them? It was so easier to keep track of everything. Having two separate things was just a headache. I mean, we had fun and all doing them when it came to just specific subjects, but I should have just merged them from the start when I was focusing on them. But the issue with having two separate shows like this, here's the thing. Never do that. Okay, never do that. If it's going to be a subject about entertainment, anything wise, like anime, games, movies, TV shows, books, comic books, just put them all together. Because here was the issue. With these two separate, I had movies and TV show discussions and gaming discussions, which I could only do whenever I felt like I had an idea for something. But in the meantime, I was being active on mostly reviews. I was working on my stories like the Toy War, He Said, She Said, etc., etc. I had too much. During 2016, while we were still, well, when we did a few of those episodes, I started top 10s, which was like another thing. It's like, oh, I'm everywhere. And see, when I look back at this now, it was such a big headache. I don't know how I kept doing it. 2021 that I decided to merge the two together. And it just made sense. It made perfect sense to just merge them together instead of having two separate entities. Because let's be real, it's a headache to run multiple things. So I decided to just do that. It made it easier, and whenever I was ready, I could hop on and just do another episode. But I still have 8 projects that I'm doing. I mean, it trimmed it down a bit, but I still had a little more that I'm doing. I still have like 8 things I'm focusing on. So I'm still everywhere in some cases. Well, for a while, I mean, I was thinking this would be it. This would be the official thing, and that was it. And then I decided, well, I might merge 2 other things to make it simple. And it is simple. The formation of both movies and TV show room discussions and video game room discussions created Pop Culture Talk. And that was the start of the title Pop Culture Talk and the show in general. It is a whole dang show now. A whole series. And it wouldn't be until 2022 that I decided to merge the reviews and top 10s together, which makes things so much more simpler. That would mean I only have a little bit of things I'm focusing on. I maybe still spread a little bit with different things, but at least I have less to do, less things to work on. Pop Culture Talk wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these 2 shows. While they were just the spur of the moment at those moments, with me and Corey Michael's movies just deciding to record, it created a show that, to me at least, is a fun show to work on. It's just interesting to look back at gaming room discussions and movies and TV show room discussions as different entities and just different shows all around, just different subjects. But it's just interesting how things have changed on this channel since then, or this platform in general. Because I was pretty much just uploading random stuff like reviews and Toonami stuff and video game stuff, but then I found my niche. I want to create content, original stuff, pretty much like shows, films, skits, stop motion stuff. I'm a creator, and I also want to talk about photography, which is on this show. If you want to check out more interesting behind the scenes stuff or just anything about making good stories, doing photography, stuff like that, or pretty much anything else when it comes to behind the scenes, or even some reviews on specific indie creators, you could check out the episodes here on Craft of Creating. Anyways, peace.